Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Alpough, and welcome to the 10th episode of Vision of Love Show. Wow, I just started last Thursday, and now this is my 10th show. Actually, it's my 11th. I had to redo the first one because of technical difficulties, but I did redo the whole show on YouTube, and I put it on there. So technically, it's my 11th, but it's actually my 10th new show. So, wow. What a day, huh? What a day. You know, I don't know how you wake up, but here's how I wake up. I wake up, you are what you think about. What do I think about? Usually the first thing is, wow, I'm awake. I'm awake. I don't know how you wake up. Sometimes you're groggy, but usually for me, I just wake up, and in my brain, my mind is like wide open. Like I'm wide awake as soon as I wake. It's just really, really weird. So, but it's been different for me because now I've really found my passion, and that's my whole thing, to inspire you here how to find your passion, how to become who you want to become, as opposed to how the world or your peers or your family view you, and falling into the category of people pleasing. And I'm one of the greatest of all time when it came to that. And so the whole idea was to be inspired every day, and that's what happened. So I'm usually, the first thing that always comes to my mind is, what are you going to talk about today? Okay. What just comes to your, what comes to your mind? I always go, well, okay, should I follow up with yesterday or be wide open? Well, I'm wide open when I get up. So now I don't actually get up immediately. It's a quiet place. It actually allows me to think and use my imagination. And so what came to me was mourning. And I realized there are so many of my friends, as well as myself, in the last year that have experienced the loss of their loved ones. See, it goes more deeper than that. Something that the only thing you're supposed to mourn about is the mourning of losing a loved one. But really, that's just touching the subject. That's not even the beginning. If in the last year, since this pandemic has come up, and everyone's stuck and frustrated, and there's been a mourning of that. I mourn the loss of people who've had financial issues or things with their health, that they can no longer do the things that they used to do. And so in this process, so I got up, and then I started to realize that I have took a huge piece of cake. And I was overwhelmed. And this is for my late time here, and the fact that boy, I really bit off something here. And I bit it off because, well, it's something that I've been very familiar with. But then when I understood that this must be said, it's through death of the losses of last year, not just with people, with my loved ones, but other losses that culminated in making things even, I want to say, worse. So the subject here is to mourn or not to mourn. That is the question here. Yes. Yes. It's absolutely perfectly fine to mourn. And if there's anything that I've learned here over the last year and a half, that mourning cannot be stopped. Mourning cannot be stopped. You can't turn it off. You can hold it back, but you can't turn it off. In all my losses last year, losing my sweet Isabella, who you can see is up here in the corner. So she's always with me. Losing my father, losing my mother. But one of the things I didn't share is also on top of that, I lost my business. And that in itself is its own tragedy. So it wasn't that I lost it, it was stolen. So in the heat of everything that happened to me, other things happened also. You know, maybe your car broke down, you blew an engine, okay, on top of everything. When I went to go see my mother on Easter Sunday, I came out after seeing my mother, and my truck was broke down. And so, but the high of being with my mother didn't even faze me. Got AAA, going home, everything's good. Okay? I was more overwhelmed by seeing my mother than I was underwhelmed about my truck breaking down, which, by the way, I had 15 years. My F-150 has never been towed. So, you know, it was the first time. But Blue always gets me there. So I have never broke down on the road or anything like that. So to mourn or to mourn, or not to mourn. One thing, as I was thinking about all this, I'm like, man, you know that old saying, there's only two things, death and taxes. Then you die, whatever it is, or death and taxes, however it is. And that's the two things you're guaranteed. And that's just not true. Okay? What is true is everybody is born and everybody passes on. That's the guarantee. Now, if you're an atheist, you probably say they die. If you're a spiritual being, you believe that your loved ones pass on. And if you're an animal lover, like me, then you believe your animals go on too. So this is not about arguing about which way is which. This is what my experiences is, and this is what I know in my experience. Now, I've helped a lot of people who have lost loved ones and that call me to help them. And I gladly help people who are having issues about it. Now, I'm going to go into my notes here because I wrote so much stuff down that it was literally so much to do. So, people tell you 3 days. 3 days. See, and my generation is probably the same here. 3 days. So at work, if your mother or your father or someone really close, they give you 3 days off. So when I was at Ford, they give you time off to go tend to your business, and then it's back to work. Same thing with most of you people. Since people are uncomfortable with crossing over, death, passing on, it is very uncomfortable because it reminds everyone of how vulnerable we all are, and that the rug can be pulled out from under us, so to speak, and how it affects us is different. It's different. It's different for everybody and every situation that you come into. You have to deal with it as an individual. So for me, it was losing my dog on June 12th last year. My mother going into full-blown dementia, my business being stolen, and then the icing on the cake was my father, who died suddenly also. Izzy died suddenly also. My mother, who, like I said, I just saw, bless her, it's not her fault. It's not anybody's fault. Dementia, Alzheimer's, these are things that we are just now understanding. So as I was studying this, I'm always looking at both sides. You know, should you mourn? Should you not? Now, I already know that you should mourn. But now there's other people are out there teaching, well, you should mourn at all. Mourning is a weakness. Really. Really. Tell you mourning is a weakness. To those people, you're not the ones that I'm going to be mourning with. So I'll go back and forth that the most important thing when you are in this place is be careful with who you place your feelings on. Number one, they don't understand. They haven't experienced it. So it's very difficult for them to understand. Now, there's a lot of people out there that's never had lost and lost. Even myself, I already knew, because all my cousins and everyone was losing their mom and dad. And my father was 91. My mother just turned 86. So that loss, that major loss, hadn't hit. But it did hit when I lost Izzy. Because now I'm talking to the ones who we didn't have children. So our animals became our children. And Izzy was with me for 16 years every day because I work at home. So she's always been with me. So it's totally different when I lost her. Now, I understood that because I'd lost another dog beforehand, my golden retriever, Zammer. And when that happened, that was 15 years ago. Excuse me. That's the first time I lost something so close. Okay. Now let's go back. Let's go back to when you're a child. It's okay to look back. All right? It's all right to look back. It's good to know where you came from. It's good to make an evaluation on where you came from. So some of us don't ever experience it when we're a child. But that's not really the case now because it's, even as a child, these kids are going through high suicide. I know because I got friends who are, I'm twice their age, and they're losing friends by suicide. People just leaving. I'm going to talk about age also. What's phases of age? And one of the first is like 5. Okay, that's like your big one where you're going to get out of the house and be separated from your parents. You're going to a school where you're going to be another adult is going to be telling you what to do, and not your mom and dad or your uncle, your aunt, or your neighbors. Strangers. Now, that was traumatic for me. Now, of course, I got over it, but I'll never forget when my mother let my hand go. She let my hand go. Going in there now. Going in there. I'm almost on the verge of tears because I'm thinking they're giving me away somewhere. So about, 3 days or so, I'm already into the world now, kindergarten. So now my mom, instead of walking me up all the way there to the door, my mom started coming back. So she just walked me to the steps. Go on there, run up, go on. And I remember, never forget, I'm a little kid, so I remember it's a lot of steps. It was like coming on this hill. Of course, my high school was on a hill. So that was my first traumatic thing. The second thing was President John F. Kennedy was assassinated. And that was the next year for me. It was in first grade. And all of a sudden it came over the speaker, everyone go home. The president has been assassinated. Everyone go home. That was a big one. I remember watching the funeral. And John F. Kennedy was, I think he's a couple of years younger than I was. But we were about the same size, but I think he's definitely a couple of years younger than me. And when I saw him salute his father, I'm like, felt it. I felt this child's pain. And I turned to my mother and I said, I don't want President Kennedy to die. And I started crying. Nobody else was but me. And then the next question came out of my brain. And I looked at my mother and I said, Mama, are you going to die? She said, yes. What? You're going to die too? Everybody dies, son. Even me? Yes. But listen, not now. Not now. Oh my God, you talk about starting crying. Crying. And that's when I knew my life changed. It changed. See, when we were kids, we're supposed to believe in Santa Claus and some fairy tale world that we get put in until reality hits us like hard as a rock. And throughout my life, I cried many times. I can't tell you how many times. 163, so it's a lot. Of just my parents dying. And my dad, he lived to be 91. And my mom's still alive at 86. But then what happened was this. My uncle's son died, who was my godfather, and who was right down the street every day, and who cut my hair. And he was in construction, and his machine, the ground gave, and he went into the water. It was on the news, and he got out from under, and it was very cold, very freezing that day. Freezing. And my uncle still got out of there, but he passed on the ground. It devastated the family. Devastated the family. Son had 14 kids. Devastated all of us. And there began this reality. And it really tells you, we live in a cold world. Okay. I'm going to go on here a little bit past my time here. I'll be back this afternoon. I apologize on this delay here, but boy, I realize I could talk about this for a long time. So can you mourn and celebrate at the same time? Yes, absolutely. Without a doubt. I celebrate my father. I'm glad he's gone. He's out of pain. He's out of pain. I'm glad he's gone. I'm glad. When I get up in the morning, for me, I say hi to my father. I reach out because it makes me feel better. Makes me feel better. I'm one of those ones who believe I'm not limited to anything. Talk on another side, I'm not limited to that. I can do it. Why not? Why not talk to your loved ones? Can't hurt. Make you feel better. Okay? So for people who tell you it's time to get over it, it's time to move on, to those people, I say, leave me alone. I'm a grown-ass man, excuse me. If I need a year more than my father and celebrate, I will do it. A friend of mine just lost her dog. And, here's 4 or 5 days later, and she's like, why am I still feeling like this? Why am I still feeling? And they have people who are getting suggestions. Get another dog right now. Go right down to the dog pound and get you another dog and put this dog away. I've heard that line many times by many people. Just for the record, you all, it never works. Okay. I already have another dog. I've only had that dog for 2.5, 3 years. It's an incredible dog. Our dog Bella, who's just as sweet, and she reminds me of Izzy in a way. And that you can tell she's a thinker. Izzy was always a thinker. So when people are, let me finish with my friend who lost a dog. I said, and this is what I'm saying to you, the greater the love, the greater the love, the greater the mourning and celebration. Of course, my father says, you have to move on, son. I already know that, but it was a great loss. So it took me the time that I needed. No one's going to tell me, because I'm an adult of my mind. I am an adult of my thought. I love me. I am my best friend. I know what's best for me. And if you keep watching this channel, you'll be defined when you decide to make any decision in life. Because if I didn't say, I'm an adult of my mind, I'm an adult of my thought, then I could have gone back to being a child, which I did, which was okay, because I'm an adult of my mind. And where did I go back? I went back to the backyard with my dad and I playing catch. Wow. There's so much more to touch on here. When I started studying this, it just hit me. As I put it out there, I'm like, oh my gosh, I could feel people mourning. After 20 years of losing your mom, you still mourn. It doesn't mean you're not celebrating. But what it means is you loved them. Mourning tears is love tears, y'all. Maybe one of these days I'll show the bucket to my dad. Dad, this is all the tears I cried for you, man. I drink a lot of water. I'm going to end here. I have to come back. We're going to be talking about the stages. These are suggested stages of grief: shock, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, testing, acceptance. And this first about accepting our situations, but it's also about accepting ourselves first. And that way, there are no distractions from people who innocently try and tell us how to feel and when it's time to move on. So I'll be back this afternoon. My times got screwed up here today, so I'll be back in the later afternoon. I will post it. I have to go do a couple things here. I have an appointment, but I will be back later on this afternoon. Please put your comments. You got any questions, anything in the Facebook page. I'm not set up here where I can get your comments on StreamYard here, but I will have this all straightened out beforehand so that I can see your comments, and I'll be able to answer things on the fly or make comments or say hello to you. This is still in the making. Things are going to be changing. I'm going to be in a different place here in the next couple of days here as I'm adding equipment. I'll have my lighting stuff down here. I'm still dealing with the glare. I'm going to have more pictures. I'm going to have people on, and that's what we're going to do. So I want to end on this most positive note, because I want you to know that I had, when I was at my lowest, there are some people that really helped me, and I really want to bring their name up as a thank you. First of all, I want to thank Chuck Chang. Chuck, you helped me more than you could ever imagine. My friend Corey T helped me. My good friend Jason Peshek. Jason, thank you. Thank you for what you did and how you helped me. And last but not least, and not last because there's so many other people, but I want to thank my cousin, Double A Ron, Aaron, who called me every day for months. Thank you, buddy. Thank you. I'll never forget none of you for what you did. It's the people that are kind to you that you remember. So be kind, everybody. Be kind. And I'll see you again here in the afternoon. Been great being with you. This is a touchy subject, but it is one that I'm not afraid to deal with because we're in it together. Okay? There is no fear. There's only love. So when your mind is troubled, fill it with love. Fill it with love.